Opportunities knock, and the question of whether you're the sort of individual that will open a door and have a look. And sometimes you've got to have enough self-belief that you haven't got time to open the door, you grab it. I started in 1955.
I joined the old firm when I was 20, and I think Ron would have been 26 then. He was my first supervising partner, and he soon became a man that I certainly could admire.
I joined Hungerford's in 1987. It was a very family-friendly sort of firm, very participative with their client base, and something that I aligned with pretty quickly.
The old Hungerford's firm was pretty much forced to merge with what was called Pete Marwick in those days in 1987 through a merger worldwide of a whole lot of firms. Hungerford's merged into KPMG as the private business division. We were in Nauru House, we stayed in our own building, and the business name was changed to KPMG Pete Marwick Hungerford's, the longest name ever in a business that you would know. A couple of years later, a merger, and there was a big consolidation in the accounting industry around the world, happened, and Touche Ross merged around the world, and in Melbourne they merged into our firm. Touche Ross were a very big audit firm dealing at the top end of town, corporate work. It changed the whole balance of what was a priority in our firm, and we were one division in our firm, and all of a sudden we saw ourselves as second-class citizens.
We didn't like that mixture at all. I particularly didn't like it.
It was a takeover. And so as that dawned on us, the closer we got and the arrangements were put in place for the new management of the firm, was pretty obvious we were going to be taken over and pretty much lose control. It was pretty traumatic, to be honest. Very traumatic.
I was very uncomfortable. In particular, I was really worried about the fact that our clients in that middle market that had trusted us and had looked after us were not going to get the service, and it was going to be an awful lot more expensive.
I don't think there was a great understanding about the dynamics and the metrics around the practice that we had. It was quite a different way that we worked.
This group of partners drew a circle on the whiteboard, and they were putting in the circle all the parts that made up the firm: taxation, audit, consulting, so on. Private business, I noticed, was right on the outside of the ring, as though if you got a discus thrower, that bit would fly off into the heavens. And I knew by then, from my colleague Tim Jonas, that the feedback that was coming through from some of the partners, all the partners actually, that had gone in from Hungerford's Melbourne, was one of great unhappiness.
They were the worst years of my working life. I was most unhappy, and I had discussions with my wife that I might break away and form my own firm.
At the same time, the big recession of the late 80s and early 90s hit, and it got very, very difficult. We couldn't grow, the brand was seen as big corporate, and here were we trying to participate in the middle market and smaller end of the market. We just couldn't win any work.
That culture, the whole way of doing things, and what gave you real satisfaction was missing. So an opportunity arose in that meeting for me to put up my hand and say, looks to me that you don't really want private business. Would you allow me to take it out?
I could have hugged him at the time and kissed him, to be honest.
I walked out with the biggest smile on my face.
Hooray. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, so that's when the firm was conceived, you might say.
I didn't have a doubt, but I wouldn't be being honest if I didn't say I was pretty concerned when I realised just how many people now were going to be dependent on the decision that we'd taken.
The firm was branded Pitcher Partners because we really had 7 weeks to come up with a name. Ron was well known around town and it was a great name. And there was only 7 weeks from the time of the decision to go to when we actually went. We came up with accounting systems, we selected the staff, we came up with the name, all of those things, and we launched within 7 weeks of the whole thing being decided. It was brilliant.
Mr. Pitcher was a fantastic leader of the firm. He gave everybody the time of day, which was, quite important. So no matter who you were, whether you were a graduate like I was at the time or a more senior person, he always had time to speak to you. People would look up to him and he was very well respected.
The only accountant in Australia where clients are prepared to queue up in the reception room to have a chance to see him. So that's how good he was regarded. Yeah.
So we stayed on that same floor. The desks and offices didn't change.
That first day, coming up the glass lift at 161 Collins Street, there was a game on, and we came past level 5, which was reception at KPMG, and we couldn't wait to get started. We were run through brick walls.
Exhilaration, people were running, and it was just fantastic. Such a feeling of being free.
And they loved it. They were really part of it. It wasn't about a group of partners and a group of staff, it was us.
But the clients were joyous too. The clients were having parties to celebrate. It was extraordinary, and telling everyone they knew you better go and help pitchers to help them along their way. It was quite an exciting time.
KPMG insisted that a letter should go out to all the clients in private business. On KPMG letterhead, the question was asked, do you want to follow these partners or would you prefer to stay in the firm of the stature of KPMG? Every one of them said they wanted to go, and in addition to that, I think we got quite a number out of KPMG that our people had been servicing, and also a couple of partners.
We all, had to put in some long hours. We needed to show the clients that although we weren't part of the big 4 firms anymore, we could still, provide them with exactly what they needed, and that same, advisory and trust that they'd had with us before hadn't changed.
If I am doing the best job I can do for the client, then they will grow and they will bring others. And I didn't hesitate. Every new client I got, the first question after it was, now you must have some friends. All I need is a telephone number or a business card and I'll make the contact, but I'd like to be able to use your name.
A number of our clients were wobbling at that stage. Businesses were going belly up every day. The vacancy rates in the CBD were 25%, unemployment rates were double digit, inflation was double digit, interest rates were plus 20%. It was blood on the streets.
We actually not only saved a lot of businesses, but we certainly got an awful lot of clients ultimately out of the workouts that we did.
A lot of the successes we had with those clients back then are now some of our biggest clients now 25 years later. And when you work with those clients through those difficult times, and if they do survive and you're part of that process to survival, they're clients for life.
When we left KPMG, there was no definition of a middle market. We helped define that market.
I honestly believe that is why the big end of town, the big firms who've tried many times to bite into the middle market have never succeeded. They don't understand the core of what drives this place. And that's the real caring, the honesty, the integrity, all those things that are, they sound fine words, but they're actually in play.
When people start in this firm from outside, within a week they say, I can't believe this work environment. I can't believe it. I've never worked in a place like this, and it gets straight into your bones. Now, for people who are outside, find it hard to believe, but it's there. And it's really powerful.
I joined in March 1998. So coming out of the Australian Taxation Office, which is obviously a huge bureaucratic organisation, the cultural difference between Pitcher Partners and the ATO was enormous. At the ATO, you really didn't have contact with the most senior people in the organisations. Your input and your ability to develop strategy and influence strategy was pretty limited. What really struck me about Pitcher Partners was that it was a smaller firm, it was a nimble firm, where the partners had control of the strategy and their own destiny.
I would hate to say how many people have been married because they met people in the firm. We have a huge alumni, so our view is that when staff leave here, they've got green blood in their veins and they will come back and they'll always remember their time, and they do. We are great at bringing businesses up, helping them grow and just being part of their team.
I use the analogy of planting the acorn and getting the oak tree. It's a great satisfaction to feel that you've played a part in helping those businesses and therefore those families grow and be successful.
The first client I worked on my first day of work in 1966 is still a client of this firm.
Our partners get very involved with our clients, and so they see them all the time.
We do share success, but it's not just the hard times, it's just having somebody to talk to who's totally independent.
Our clients are generally active entrepreneurs, and there's ups and there's downs and there's sideways, and during the course of a day you punch into the air and then you're sort of slumping over thinking, okay, I've got to deal with another crisis, so you're in there in the mix the whole time.
If you focus on the client and your big interest is about doing the best you can there and making sure you're giving all the support you can, the dollars will look after themselves.
We've always been willing to invest, always been willing to invest. And we've made big strategic decisions where we've gone out, recruited people with no fees to come in and build a practice area. If we were focused just on profit, we probably wouldn't have done that, but the benefit's been huge. Today, any little IT startup can create a product and sell it anywhere in the world. And we can help them get into those markets. I don't believe you can have a successful professional services firm that just looks to its local market, because the clients don't just look to the local market.
And I think our and Australia's relationship with Asia and the ASEAN countries over the next 15, 20, 25 years is going to be dramatic and very exciting.
We're trying to do all of the things that are going to create a future-proofed organisation, and I think the opportunities are terrific. I think we really can grow and will grow, yeah.
The fact that Pitcher Partners is the same firm today that it was almost 25 years ago, I think is really important.
That culture that the firm's been founded upon, and still recognising it very strongly today, my great hope is that that's the legacy that will flow on. And if that does, I really believe this firm will continue to be a very strong firm. But it'll be also founded on the right sort of principles.